Welcome, listeners, to today's episode of the Black Business Roundtable. I am your host, Doug Blackshear, broadcasting to you live from the City of Diversity, Oakland, California. I'd like to start off today with talking about broadcasting to you in the City of Oakland, diversity, Democrats, and Republicans. Did you catch the Democrat Congresswoman Barbara Lee on CNN revealing her personal reproductive health experience in Mexico when she was a teenager? So, audience, let's be clear. This is not a Democrat or Republican. This is not independent or Green Party tea. This is a life or death situation. This story was moving, and she shared her private experience due to wanting to help save the lives of women in America that may need reproductive health services now in the future. However, Senator Joe Manchin, a Democrat, hashtag Joe Manchin, once again did not vote with his party to pass the federal act to protect reproductive rights for all women, no matter what their party affiliation is. Audience, remember the organization SLAP, hashtag SLAP Bay Area. That is SLAPBAYAREA, Bay Area. They are setting up to go national. Wow. Now that's how you make a change. When you start something and you make it go coast to coast, Canada to Mexico. They are asking the national community, you or anyone you know that is past, current, or future parent of a kindergarten through 12th grade student, a teacher, teachers union, or labor union. So what this means, audience, we don't care what you are, black, brown, Hispanic, Asian. We want to know if you're American and want to fight for the dream of having our labor and schools not being controlled by only a few. And that is critical. To follow this organization on social media and join the movement. This is open to everyone in communities across the nation that want to support their community school and labor against privatization. Donations are welcome. Hashtag SLAP Bay Area. I want to prompt our national audience to share this new organization, Schools and Labor Union Against Privatization, known as, you can't forget that one, SLAP. Website is at the bottom of the screen. Now, you can forget about a lot of things out there, but SLAP is an organization you can't forget about. The joint effort weekend of action, Friday, April 29th through Saturday, April 30th, last month, brought the teachers and labor unions together, united in Oakland for a day of action against privatization. See my Facebook, Art Blackshear, or Instagram directly for the video reels from April 29th, 2022, featuring the one-day strike and some of the video taken from the day. Audience, SLAP lit it up. It was amazing. I had truly a wonderful time seeing people engaged in their community, in their city, in their kids' school, and in the labor movement. Because as Mr. Trent Willis said, labor is what runs this country. There were successes from the weekend of action by SLAP noted in their Instagram page at slap.bayarea, including, and look at the bottom of the screen if you want to get the name of the website so you can check SLAP out. Cross Union Solidarity Against Schools Closure, Oakland Educational Association, and the ILWU Local 10 strengthened. 94% of the Oakland Education Association members respected the picket line. Families and educators united in action. And that's what we need in this country. We need action. We need action. Let's stop talking and let's start walking. Action. Oakland Unified School District, lies and corruption exposed, and Shanti Gonzalez. And if you get a chance, audience, please check this out. Shanti Gonzalez, former, or well, she's still on the board, but she resigned from the school board, and I believe is effective immediately. Even the school board members realize that this is crazy. This should not be accepted, and we should not be using our kids as pawns in this game that's being played in the city of Oakland, county of Alameda, state of California, and all across the United States, where it has something to do with increasing, where one man, one billionaire, or several billionaires control the masses of the many. So remember, slap. You like that, Dr. Ashley? I'm going to need you to talk to me after that. The fight continues. The next SLAP meeting is tonight, May 12th, 2022, at Westlake Middle School. Address is 2629 Harrison Street, Oakland, California. Once again, that is tonight at Westlake Middle School at 2629 Harrison Street. Topics of discussion will include, and you're going to love this, no stadium at the Port of Oakland, no school closures, and stop privatization of Oakland itself. Audience, let's be clear here. Oakland has been the front line of all progressiveness for over a century now. So come out and fight for our city, which will resonate to the county, which resonate to the state, and resonate all across this country. Oakland, California is the leader when it comes to holding our politicians accountable, and in addition to that, protecting our kids, our Black and brown kids. Audience, and once again, I'm going to really hammer home to this. Audience, register to vote in your midterm. Don't think that your vote does not count. It is not too late to register. Register for midterms happening right now, and every one of them will make the difference. Every one of your votes will make a difference. Our politicians have come to the conclusion that we don't care and we're asleep at the wheel. And I want you to keep this in mind. I used to drive commercial vehicles, and one of the things about being asleep at the wheel, you will eventually crash. Remember that. Let's not be asleep at the wheel, audience. And who is representing us nationally, as our votes are all connected, no matter where you live, whether you're in California or New York, whether you're in Chicago or Atlanta, your vote counts. Your vote matters. Now, for today's political corner, which reflects who is and is not locally or nationally honoring their commitments to work for their constituents. Now, this is Doug's Comments Corner. We have an emergency relief program in California, and some of it from my understanding, is not being administered quickly enough. I'm humbly asking that our Board of Supervisors, elected city officials, and state of California look at people who are out here hurting, because whether it's the state or the agencies that the state contracts this work to issue those checks out to people who need that money for emergency rental assistance program, get off your butts and go to work. I don't know if these contracts are, as I stated last week regarding SB 1367, are they nilly-willy given out because they're the governor's friends, they're the mayor's friends, they're city council friends, they're board of supervisor friends? But we're going to get to the bottom of this, and we're going to name names on why and why the money's not getting out, and who is responsible for getting those checks out to not only the tenant, but to the landlord. Landlords depend on this money. So you are on notice, our local politicians. If you do not start acting immediately, you will be highlighted on this show. And before the show ends, I have some wonderful news to share about the Black Business Roundtable being asked to be on a national and international platform, because my ride or die co-host, Dr. Ashley, and I, and the woman behind the scene have created a platform where our people and all people can identify with. Dr. Ashley, we'll tell them soon. I happen to be a constituent here in Oakland, California. And last week, I mentioned that Mayor Libby Schaaf, or staffer running her Instagram, decided that I could no longer tag her direct Instagram account, which on this is at Libby Schaaf. That is spelled LIBBYSCHAAF, Libby Schaaf. Yes, people, I have the screenshot as my receipt, where the mayor of Oakland denied me access, one of her constituents, to talk and communicate with her on Instagram. Well, Mayor Libby Schaaf, let's keep it real here. Since I know I can get under your skin, watch this. I said I would let you know if I were reinstated to tag her in the future. Well, the future seemed to come rather quickly, as I apparently that same week suddenly could once again tag at Libby Schaaf instead of just hashtag Libby Schaaf. So somebody must have told her the rules about being a politician. You can't run and hide. Represent your constituents, not the billionaires who want a Disneyland park. And most importantly, Mayor Libby Schaaf, I challenge you to say African American Sports and Entertainment Group. Put your big pants on, Mayor, and help Oakland generate revenue with the African American Sports and Entertainment Group. I humbly ask that you support them to be the first Black group to own an NFL team in the United States. Thank you, Mayor Libby Schaaf. So thank you, Mayor Libby Schaaf and Oakland, California, for acknowledging that bringing problems and issues to your doorstep is what we constituents should be doing. So please, if you don't do anything else, Mayor Libby, listen to your constituent. We are the ones who elected you in office. I remember back in 2014 when you came in front of the NAACP and you were very convincing that you would represent all people in the city of Oakland. A special thanks to our sponsor, my man, the man who built this platform, the man who has allowed Dr. Ashley and myself to come on here, cryptocurrency, and many other shows to enlighten, inform, and educate. Thank you, Mr. Donnie Glover at blackusa.news is his website. And be sure to tune in to Chapman Friends on Mondays, Party Marty on Tuesday, Black USA Crypto News with my brother, my friend, and my colleague, Kamal Hubbard, on Friday, as he knows all about blockchain and cryptocurrency. On Saturdays, Blackout live from New York City with my sister, Tajmir. And let me say that again, Dr. Ashley. That's live with Blackout from New York City, Tajmir. On Sundays, my brother's 60 Minutes, Michael Haney in Black USA. Magnolia Engineering and Construction. Tammy Willis is president, chief executive of Magnolia Engineering and Construction, one of the few Black African-American, female-owned and operated engineering and construction firms in the country and located right here in the City of Diversity, Oakland, California. Visit her website to learn more about Magnolia Engineering and Construction at magnoliaengineeringandconstruction.com. Because if our daughters can see her, they too can be her. Thank you, Tammy Willis, for what you bring. To be considered as a guest or to join our advertising family, send your company and or name, address, website, company phone number, and social media page info to our email address at bbrt2021 at hotmail.com for vetting consideration. To the audience today, we got a blast from the past. We got a brother who is going to light it up with his father. And Father's Day is next month, so this is a precursor of what our Father's Day is going to look like. Tonight we will discuss incarceration with a previous guest of the show, but how it affected his family. Dr. Asher, this is where you're going to come in big time, my sister. Affected his family and what today looks like versus time inside, hold on audience, Pelican Bay. That's one of the toughest prisons in the state of California and in the United States. We want to share with you today, Carlton's family continues to thank you, our audience, on the Black Business Roundtable for your thoughts, prayers, messages, and donations for Carlton. Carlton, if you're out there, the cavalry is coming. Hang on, brother. Hang on and watch this show today that should and will inspire not only you, but many Black men and women across this country who are dealing with, in what I call, injustice. We want to help keep Carlton's name and story. Look at the bottom of the screen, and it hasn't showed up yet, so I'll read it off to you. We'll show that later in the show because it's a long webpage. Or our podcast from Google Doug Blackshear and Saabir Lockett on March 31st, 2021. Reading Carlton in the public eye and coordinating a new hashtag we'll be using for his young businessman incarcerated for standing his ground at his Raleigh, North Carolina establishment. And I want to say Raleigh, North Carolina, because although we're based here in Oakland, we address issues all across the country, which include Texas, Atlanta, Chicago, Baltimore, Maryland, New York, and Florida. So stay tuned, audience. The new hashtag is Stand with Carlton of Raleigh, NC 2022. Once again, and there it is on the screen. All right. We will keep you updated on this case and include his name, hashtag, and link to his story via our show and social media. We will keep you posted on the fundraising effort to hire the legal defense firm needed to get Carlton justice in 2022. If you have any messages to share with Carlton, please forward to bbrt2021@hotmail.com and put the subject line hashtag Stand with Carlton of Raleigh, North Carolina, and that's NC for North Carolina 2022. I'm running behind, Doctor. I'm gonna have to get back on script. Our guests today include our weekly check-in with our very own Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology, tenured and immediate past department chair, assistant professor of psychology at University of the West. Welcome, Dr. Ashley.
Thank you, Doug.
We wouldn't have a show if you wasn't here to go with us. Our special guest today is going to include Saabir Lockett, a former gang member from Los Angeles County, sentenced to life in prison at 19 years of age. He changed his life in prison through obtaining a college education and fought for and won his freedom after 21 years. Google Doug Blackshear and Saabir Lockett, February 3rd, 2022, or click on the hashtag. It should be coming up soon. And a special guest from his father, his staunch supporter, the man who kept him strong along with his other family members, Mr. Willie Lockett, CEO, founder of Urban Equity Group, LLC, and father of Saabir Lockett. We want to make sure we welcome him on the show because when you're incarcerated, we need that support. Janani Ramachandran, Esquire, friend of the show and running for District 4 in Oakland, California. See her website at Janani4, and that's FOR, Oakland, California, and new Instagram at Janani4, and that's the numeral 4, Oakland. Now, the national political highlight in several elections. Georgia early voting started May 2nd, and primary is May 24th. Marcus Flowers, our guest from February 24th this year, Democrat running to defeat that bad character Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia's 14th district. He believes in bipartisanship and bridge building and does not believe in vilifying political opponents. Learn more on Instagram at Marcus4Georgia, or his website is Marcus4, and that's FOR, Georgia.com. His yard signs are ready. Help knock on doors and phone bank. Visit his website for details. Hashtag One Georgia, and that's ONE. That's ONE Georgia, and hashtag Perjury Taylor Greene. Once again, that's Perjury Taylor Greene. I love that one. Keep it real. I love that guy. Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock, a Democrat, helped to flip Georgia blue, along with Senator John Alsop, running for Senate to fight for affordable health care, protect voting rights, and ensure the dignity of working people and a Morehouse College alumni. Learn more on Instagram at Raphael Warnock or his website, Warnock4, and that's FOR, Georgia.com. Hashtag, once again, One Georgia, and that's ONE Georgia. Stacey Abrams, my sister, a Democrat, economic, educational, and social mobility is her platform. Healthcare, military family, and veteran support are all a part of her policy platform. To vote Stacey Abrams, to quote Stacey Abrams, opportunity in our state shouldn't be determined by zip code, background, and or access to power. Learn more on Instagram at Stacey Abrams or StaceyAbrams.com. Her hashtag is One Georgia, and that's ONE Georgia. My sister, Val Demings. Text the word join to 77076. Val Demings, a Democrat, is running for 2022 Florida Senate. Her policy platform includes national security, jobs, and economy, healthcare, housing, and environment. Vote to unseat Republican Little Marco Rubio in Florida. Little Marco, pack your little bag, get your little Kid Bar tennis shoes on, and scurry on up out of there. I love doing that. That's therapeutic, Dr. Ashley. Val's tagline, never tire. Learn more on Instagram at Val Demings or her website, valdemings.com. And now for the news of the day, Dr. Ashley. And I took a little more time than I should have, but please take it away. Thank you.
No problem, Doug. And hello to you and greetings to our listeners. Um, Again, the news of the day comes courtesy of the Equal Justice Initiative, and they have a calendar that provides daily moments in history that's available via download by visiting eji.org. So on this day, May 12th, 1898, Louisiana disenfranchises Black voters and jurors. So the state of Louisiana adopted a new constitution with numerous restrictive provisions intended to exclude African American men from civic participation. At this time in the U.S., women of all races remained barred from voting, while Black men had recently gained the right to vote under the 14th and 15th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution. However, the new Louisiana Constitution created a poll tax, literacy, and property ownership requirements, and a complex voter registration from all designed and enforced to disproportionately disenfranchise Black male voters. The year 1865 included the Confederacy's defeat in the Civil War, widespread emancipation, and the abolition of slavery. And all of these developments threatened to overturn Southern culture and social relations, which were based on white supremacy and racial hierarchy. After the Reconstruction ended in 1877 and white politicians and lawmakers regained control and power in the South, many efforts were made to restore that racial order through very strict laws that stripped Black people of many of their new civil rights, including the right to vote. And again, in Louisiana, they explicitly expressed their goal to purify the electorate. And so when these restrictive voting provisions were first proposed in the Louisiana Constitution, some white officials expressed concern that the property and literacy requirements would also disenfranchise an estimated quarter of the white male population of voting age. And in response, then lawmakers drafted a grandfather clause, which created an exception for those whose ancestors were registered to vote before 1867. And this clause enabled many illiterate and poor white men to get around the literacy and property requirements. Again, Black people remained blocked because Louisiana laws before 1867 disenfranchised nearly all Black men, especially those who had been enslaved. And so, again, Throughout the Southern states, disenfranchisement laws targeted Black communities for generations, and the Constitution was revised slightly in 1913, but most of its restrictive language remained until 1972. And so, again, at that time, the jury rule remained in effect for more than a century until Louisiana voters approved a constitutional amendment to abolish it in, November of 2018. So, unfortunately, we see that there's been a legacy of disenfranchisement and that people have had to unify to fight for their rights to vote. Doug, I know that you always encourage our listeners to vote. And it's so interesting that we're discussing 1898, but we could close our eyes and also think that we're discussing 2022 as well.
Thank you for that informative history lesson. Dr. Ashley, we seem to have Janani running a little late, so can you go ahead and give us our therapeutic Thursday as this audience so thirsts for your knowledge to keep us intact and challenging in this American lifestyle. Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
Thank you, Doug. And again, greetings to our listeners. Again, welcome to Mental Health Awareness Month, the beautiful month of May. And so I'd like to build on this by actually introducing the symptoms of panic attacks and the symptoms of, of depression. So let's talk about this. We understand that we're still in a pandemic, hopefully coming out of it soon, that many of us have experienced many changes to mood through being isolated, through encountering various changes. And so with that, I wanted just to provide our audience just with some warning signs to kind of check in with yourself about mood. And so depression, which is also known as major depressive disorder, is one of the hallmark mental disorders that impact people globally. It consists of mood changes. This can be feeling down. This could also mean feeling depressed. This could also mean feeling irritable. In addition to that, there are other symptoms that occur for a minimum of 2 weeks that I just want to alert and inform our listeners of. So the first one is sleep changes. That's either difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep, awakening but not feeling rested. Then there's also a loss of enjoyment of hobbies or spending time with people, just not getting the most fulfillment out of those things that typically bring you joy. There can also be feelings of guilt, low self-worth, a loss of energy, appetite changes, either not having an appetite or eating more than usual to numb or to actually experience some type of joy. So also a craving for certain types of foods. Sugary foods, or as we call comfort foods as well. And then there can be a sense of a heaviness in the body and the shoulders, posture slumping, walking at different paces, either at a slowed pace or at an increased pace. And in addition to that, there's also at times thoughts of death or suicide. And so if you've noticed that there have been some shifts, the great thing about depression is that it's treatable, and there are ways to manage it, whether through behavioral changes, through talk therapy, also through medicine. But it's just a great time to check in with yourself about how your mood is and how you've been feeling. There can also, let me note this, as we're going into the summer months, there can be seasonal changes in mood as well. In addition to that, just also want to briefly introduce symptoms of panic attacks. So there can be times when we feel nervous or feel fearful or overwhelmed as the country is opening up in various ways. You might be encountering first, so going out, being around crowds for the first time in a long time, being in public places and maybe feeling a little, nervous because, we've kind of grown accustomed to a new normal over the past couple of years. So symptoms of just a panic attack can be sweating, chills, trembling, difficulty breathing, a pounding heart or racing heart, or feeling as if someone is going, crazy, weakness, dizziness, tingling, numbs, hands, feet, and also chest pains. And so again, just wanting to introduce this, there is treatment for panic attacks. It's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to be afraid. So one of the things you can do is kind of ground yourself with breathing. If you're starting to feel yourself carried away by your thoughts in the here and now, that can mean touching on textures. For our dedicated listeners and viewers, you've seen Doug and I hold the stress ball. Doug have a stress stick. You can also rub your hands against your chair, against your legs to feel texture if that's soothing. Deep breaths and regulating your emotions, using safe and calming words to remind yourself that you're okay. If you need to remove yourself from the environment, you can do that as well. But for many people that feel extreme panic attacks, they typically go to the ER. We always want you to take your breathing seriously. Hi, Janani.
Hello, can you see and hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, Doug.
Girl, you see, I'm the same old guy, but I'm giving out that audience. Let's welcome back Janani Ramachandran, our Esquire. Janani Ramachandran, Esquire, our social justice warrior, Stanford grad, and UC Berkeley School of Law alumni. Dr. Ashley?
Yes, absolutely. I apologize, Janani.
Oh.
Thank you and welcome back. Can you kind of give us an update on what's been going on with you over these past couple weeks?
Absolutely. So we have had an exciting campaign launch about a month ago. We had over 80 people that showed up to start knocking on doors and spreading the message that we are the choice in District 4 for equity, for accountability, and for social justice defined in all of the amazing and incredibly important ways.
Doug?
Girl, I got some news I'm going to share before she gets off. That's why I keep looking down at the script. Can you believe the turnout for the newly formed school and labor union against privatization, now known as, you see that? That's my new known as SLAP. As I said on my Instagram reel, don't get slapped, join SLAP. What do you think about that, Janani?
I think it's amazing that every single protest and rally and action since early February, when the whole discussion of school closures began, have had incredible turnouts, which show that this is an issue important to families, the bedrock of our communities here in Oakland, and of course children, the future of the city of Oakland. And we need to do everything we can. We need to shut down schools. We need to shut down the port. We need to continue to make sure that this issue isn't just going away because a decision was supposedly made. Nothing is ever final. And if it was, we wouldn't have the rights that we have today, in whether it's voting rights or reproductive rights, which is a big issue of concern, certainly, if we just agreed with the decision of a single legislative body. And I think that, to me, shows our power in fighting back, that we're not going to take at face value and accept as what's going to happen just because a decision was made. And we would not have the progress. Oakland would not have been a trailblazer over the course of history through the Civil Rights Movement and the Black Panthers and so many other movements, were we to accept the status quo of what it is. And to me, these actions right now around school closures bring that excitement back to acknowledging our power and saying that we can do better, our elected leaders must do better and must listen to us.
Janani, I have to say, we were asked to talk about, and I'm going to bring it up as it was relayed to me. It's talking about the reproductive issue, Roe versus Wade. Can you, getting ready to be a future politician, what are your thoughts and feelings about taking women's right to govern their own body by the state and the government? Can you elaborate on that a little bit, please? Thank you.
Absolutely. I was in shock. I am still in shock that we could reverse course so much and go to before the 1950s when we, as far as control over our own bodies go. We're in 2022. We shouldn't have to have these kinds of conversations on bodily autonomy and rights and, of course, systemic racism and so many other things. We should be at the point of history where we're saving bees and talking about climate change and moving ahead. And this regression backward is extremely telling and frightening about a range of other civil liberties and protections that are at stake. The line of Supreme Court decisions that is based off of Roe v. Wade, or that have followed Roe v. Wade, include the right to gay marriage, include the right to interracial marriage, include a whole line of what's known as privacy rights. And the fact that we are changing course at an astonishing pace is frightening. Days after the US Supreme Court decision was leaked, states across the country, particularly in the South, started introducing legislation to ban Plan B, to ban other forms of contraception. And this is going to continue to spiral for months and years to come without proactive action. And that's why I am genuinely proud to be from California, to be in a state where not everyone, but enough of us, certainly a majority, agree with the need for us to have freedom over our own bodies and make our own choices. So I think with that, the movement right now is to codify the right to choose within the California state constitution. And I think other states can and will follow that right, because we cannot trust our federal government right now. The so-called justices that are supposed to uphold the principle that we have gotten to, the principles that we've gotten to at this point. And there's so much that California can and should do. And just to be clear, this decision does not mean that abortions won't happen. It's going to mean that there will be more maternal deaths. And we know who exactly already face maternal death rates at significantly higher rates. Black women, followed by Latina and Asian women, minors, transgender individuals, and so many other marginalized communities already experience high maternal death rates and infant mortality rates. And this is going to make this process so much worse. Our very own Barbara Lee has publicly talked about her own abortion and how she had to travel all the way to Mexico in a shady backdoor clinic and spend $200 to get an abortion back in the day. That's what we're going to be returning to. Frightening, horrifying home abortions, abortions in other countries, abortions conducted without health and safety regulations. And, I'm really not trying to sound dramatic about this, because this is our near future if states don't start taking immediate action now.
Can I just jump in real quick, Janani? I want to say thank you for also mentioning um, the scarcity of Plan Bs. The price of Plan B has gone up exponentially, is being price gouged on Amazon and other platforms. And I also want to thank you for bringing up the mortality rates for women of color. In addition to that, there's also a shortage of baby formula. So while we're talking about life pre-birth, we also need to talk about and choices pre-birth. What are the options for sustaining the health and wellness for babies that are here? So there's so much happening, and yet the people making the decisions or at the table are not those who it mostly affects.
Absolutely. When the people that hijack the word pro-life use it to defend their own personal belief systems and morals, that doesn't impact them, and do not think about pro-life as being pro-child, pro-future, pro-housing, economic justice, health justice, equity. And that to me is what pro-life is and needs to continue to be moving forward.
Well, Janani, we know that you are always on the go. Doug, you want to jump in? Oh, Doug.
Janani, let me be clear here. And I want our audience to know, not only is she an attorney, but Janani, I've done a little research on how much you are doing in our community. We see you all over Instagram, spending your weekends helping the community, cleaning the parks. And let me just tell you something, audience, in Oakland, it looks like a third world country. So Janani, I thank you for that. I'm surprised you don't have a hazmat suit out there. Cleaning up the park and always giving of your time to others. I don't see too many other politicians doing that. And they're elected and paid. I hope you also are carving out a little time for yourself to recharge as well. Are you?
Absolutely. Centering myself in everything that's going on in the world and everything that's going on in my own life is important. And I will be honest, that's something I neglected to do last year. It didn't work out very well internally. So I'm learning and growing every day on how to take that time for myself, be around the people that where positive energies feed off of each other, and moving forward to get to our goal.
Well, as we close out your time here, I want to let our audience know, and I want to let you know, Janani, what's going on with the Black Business Roundtable, not only nationally here, but globally. I received a call this morning from Donnie Glover, the mastermind behind the Black Business Roundtable and all the podcast shows on the blackusa.news. And are you sitting down? Because I can't wait to share this with you. The Black Business Roundtable team has been asked, drum roll please, to join the Black Business Olympics this month and be guest speakers on not just a national, but a global platform, which we'll be talking about our show, business, economics, etc. So I want to thank Donnie Glover for allowing us to have the opportunity to showcase what we are bringing, the type of media that all Americans need to hear and learn from. But Donnie, allowing Dr. Ashley Coleman and our mystery backstage script writer and info person to encourage people who look like us on this platform and excel to where we are noticed by Dr. Eric Kelly, who's in charge of the Black Business Olympics. So I will be sure to tune you all in so that you can see how Oakland, California in the United States, the Black Business Roundtable, is not only now in the United States and several other countries, but we are global, and we are joining the Olympics. So, Dr. Ashley and our mystery scriptwriter, without you, this would never have happened. And in addition, Janani Ramachandran, Esquire, it's your input for the last year that has helped this happen. Stay tuned, audience, so you can see on the Black Business Olympics, the Black Business Roundtable step out and represent Oakland, California on a national and international level. Thank you, Donnie Glover, and thank you, Dr. Eric Kelly, person who's putting on the Black Business Olympics. I always wanted to go to the Olympics. I used to be a wrestler and wanted to go to the Olympics. Well, I didn't make the wrestling Olympics, but this is even better. Janani, we love having you on the show. Dr. Ashley, would you like to give her some going away advice so we can keep this sister strong?
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, Janani, that you're taking care of your whole self. And I have to say, as somebody who follows you on Instagram, I think your life is pretty lit. I think you have a really good, we say work-life balance, but I want to say work-life harmony. Yes. I see that. Yes.
Janani, let me be clear here. This is our 1 year anniversary this month. And if it was not for guests like you, friends of the show, the Black Business Roundtable, and I say it again, audience, would not be going to the Olympics. God bless my sister. Stay strong and spend some time for yourself.
Thank you so much.
All right.
It's an honor to be here. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Janani. I'll see you out there in the parks. I might have to put my hazmat suit on to come help you.
Let's do it.
Janani, you take it easy and we'll see you soon. Thank you, sister.
Bye-bye.
Dr. Ashley, you want to break us into a quick break, and we have our awesome lineup. Girl, go ahead and let us have it. I'm going to put it on.
I am excited. Thank you again, Mr. Donnie Glover of BlackUSA.News. Again, we have some wonderful programming on the platform, so be sure to tune into our sister shows. We have Chap and Friends on Mondays, Party Marty Let's Talk on Tuesdays. We also have Black USA Crypto News with Kamal Hubbard on Fridays, and he knows, again, all about the blockchain and cryptocurrency. On Saturdays, it's the Blackout live from New York with Ms. Tashmir, and Sunday, 60 Minutes in Black USA with Michael Haney. And Doug will, as he concludes the show this evening, will go over our other programming on the platform. I think now we're all 7 days a week. Again, a special acknowledgement to Magnolia Engineering and Construction. Magnolia is unique, offering engineering and construction services and a comprehensive administrative and compliance component. To be considered as a guest on our show or to join our advertisement family, send us an email enclosed with your company details and address the email to bbrt2021@hotmail.com for vetting consideration. Uh-oh, I see what we have here.
Lord have mercy. God is good to us today. Audience, let's welcome back this soldier, this leader, this king, Saabir Lockett, director of the Faith Alliance for Moral Economy. Hey! Dr. Ashley, can you read his bio, please? Thank you.
Absolutely. Mr. Saabir Lockett is a former gang member from Los Angeles County who was sentenced to life in prison at 19 years of age. After several years of perpetrating the same criminal behavior, which led him to prison, he underwent self-help therapy, acquired his GED, graduated from college, and earned his paralegal license. His drive and determination ultimately led him to challenge his conviction, resulting in his release from prison 21 years later. Today, Saabir Lockett is the director of the Faith Alliance for a Moral Economy, FAME. an initiative of the East Bay Alliance for a Sustainable Economy, a mayor-appointed commissioner for the city of Oakland, ensuring that formerly incarcerated people have a right to job access, inclusion, and upward mobility. He is also a community advocate and activist, leading groundbreaking strategies to improve the conditions underserved communities of color and certified mentor for the formerly incarcerated. We welcome you back, Saabir, but we also see that we have a titan in the house, Mr. Willie Lockett Sr., who I would also like to introduce. So Mr. Willie Lockett Sr. is the CEO and founder of the Urban Equity Group, LLC. And the Urban Equity Group was formed to provide quality IT services through a lens of social advocacy, UEG practices in the scope of user experience, digital transformation, and social justice. And we want to welcome you too, Mr. Lockett. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Mr. Lockett, welcome to the show. And I want you to know that you are on the #1 show on the BlackUSA.News, and we are Olympic bound to the Black Business Olympics. I don't know if you heard that. Hey, I'm gonna tattoo Olympic on my.
Oh boy!
I used to be a wrestler, and I wanted to go to the Olympics. I never knew I'd be going to the Olympics for business. But I'd like to start off with Mr. Lockett by saying how proud you must be. How proud you must be now that your son is home and he is doing outstanding and helping out others.
I'm sorry?
I wanted to say that how proud you must be having Mr. Saabir Lockett home and helping out others and being an asset, not only to the city, the county, the state, but as they said in Friday, the world, Craig, the world.
I'm extremely proud of Saabir,
Yes.
without a doubt.
I want to say that Mr. Lockett has come on to the show, and Saabir, welcome, Saabir and Mr. Lockett, and thank you both again for being a guest on our show today. First of all, Mr. Lockett Sr., our core audience is familiar with Saabir and his amazing, and we've been trying to get this, talking to people about turning this into a movie. His amazing story of incarceration and a life sentence to earn his freedom. But you are a first-timer on our show today. I understand that your current endeavor as CEO and founder of Urban Equity Group, LLC, as a connection to Saabir and or social justice. Can you share with our audience the impact of Saabir's incarceration and how this company came in fruition and its purpose? Thank you, sir.
I certainly can. And first of all, congratulations on your 1-year anniversary and also the Olympics, okay? And thank you for this opportunity to talk about my story and my son's, my relationship with my son, because that's really what this is about for me, okay? So, in 1994, okay, I was working at the Federal Reserve Bank as an IT consultant. And Saabir was living with me in El Sobrante, and he made a trip to Los Angeles. Unfortunately, Saabir made a poor decision. He used poor judgment, okay? And he wound up being arrested and given a life sentence, okay? He went on to receive 2 additional sentences while in prison, okay? And so this was very devastating to my soul and to my whole being, really. But it was this experience that caused me to assess my life as a human being, okay? And what did I really have to offer the world, right? And where was my value? Not just, I had a good paying job or whatever it was. What's my real human value? right? And so I wanted to live my values, and I wanted to give back to the world, really, to society. So, but what did I have to offer? Well, it was my IT background. Okay, that's what I knew best. So I volunteered at a workforce development nonprofit that included re-entry students as part of their student body. I was offered the position as an instructor, and I went on to become the operations director, right? So what we did was we trained those with challenges to employment, right? And but tech training was only part of it. The fun part for me was the life skills and the career navigation. I could teach anybody how to put in a hard drive, but it's navigating that corporate space that people may not have been accustomed to, right? And so that's what I did for 10 years. Okay, 3 years ago, I launched the Urban Equity Group. And the vision for this company is to move equity forward through technology. We practice in the scope of social justice first, digital transformation, and user experience, okay? And what we do is we increase the digital intelligence for those that need it most. But who are those people that need it most? Well, by every metric, Blacks are at the bottom of, the totem pole in a lot of things. It's horrible.
Excuse Mr. Willie, Blacks are at the bottom of everything in America and in the world. I just want to let you know, thank you for pointing that out.
Right. It is home ownership. It is poverty rate. But what's most glaring? What's most glaring is the population disparity in state prisons. It's about 5 times the state population of Blacks, right? It's 6% population, 30% population in California's prisons. Okay, so so that's kind of what kind of led me to my actually life's journey at this point, and I hope to do this for the rest of my life. I'm having a lot of fun. We're impacting a lot of re-entry people. We're also affecting seniors, low income, but it's the re-entry people that's most close to me. So I hope that answers your question.
Let me tell you something. Let me be clear. Look, my favorite saying. Let me be clear here. Anything that you say on this show will educate our audience, because the number of Black men and women incarcerated in this country is disgraceful as it relates to the total population. And to see this young man who you created, I'm 59, sir, so I'm around your age. I can call him a young man. I won't give his age. He might not want it, but we have a young man right now who's fighting for his life in North Carolina. And if you watch this show, we go to Texas, we go to Atlanta, we go to Florida, we go to Chi-Town, we go to New York, we hit the whole country, because our people are not just hurting here in Oakland. We're hurting all across the country. And you are making an impact here today. Dr. Ashley, please.
Sure. So, Mr. Lockett, I have the privilege of asking you the next 2 questions. But first, I just want to notice, now, Saabir has been on our show multiple times. As you were speaking, I just noticed how he was watching his father speak. And there was just a pride that came across as Saabir, and just a look in your eyes. And I know Father's Day is next month, but I couldn't help but to see the admiration in your eyes as your father spoke. So, Mr. Lockett, I want to start with you. I imagine, just even as you describe Saabir's journey, and we'll talk about the impact of incarceration on the family unit in the next couple of questions. But as you mentioned, you're very proud of your son. So first I want to start with, what are you most proud of Saabir for?
Well, let me say that the mutual admiration between us is, equal. Okay. I am still awed of some of the things he's doing. I really am, right? So what I'm most proud about is his decision making, right? The emotional intelligence that he's developed, his ability to tell a story and incite change. Okay, he has tasted life in many forms, but he produces quality output that impacts others. Okay, and so I'm very proud of the fact that he's given his values and that he is actually affecting the lives of others for the better.
Oh, Mr. Lockett. Now, wait a minute, listeners. And if you're not viewing, you'll have to check the link if you're just listening via audio. Affirmation and the power of affirmation from parent to child it's priceless, and we never age out of it. Saabir, I see your eyes, and it's powerful. If you haven't affirmed your children today, please do that, especially after choices, mistakes, because decision making can change and improve. And I saw you highlight that, Mr. Lockett. But again, the look on Saabir's face and even mine, I know how it feels. That affirmation is powerful. Before I ask the next question of Mr. Lockett, Saabir, do you want to have a response, or are you still taking it in?
Oh man, I'm still taking it in. I think that it's just a pleasure to be on this show. Y'all's like family to me. And I think that, there is not a platform out right now that's addressing these issues. There are so many different ramifications about what it means to be incarcerated. What it means to have parents who are experiencing your incarceration, to have siblings experiencing your incarceration. And all that's like secondary, thirdary impacts to what the individual experienced themselves while incarcerated. And then what are the understandings we have to have coming out? So to have this platform to address these issues, we are changing lives. We're impacting lives, changing lives with every word when we're speaking truth to power. And letting it be known that we are greater than our worst mistakes. People make mistakes, but we are human beings. And as human beings, we have the ability to grow. And it transpires. It transforms our life, and it transforms everything that we do. It ain't because that type of mentality just doesn't sit with you yourself, the individual person. Once you decide that I can change, I can be different, I can motivate, I can be of service, that becomes relevant in all areas of your life. And that's where the transformation come in. It starts with the individual, but then you have to work and exercise those same skills. You have to be in relationships and exercise those same skills. I'm now the father of a 3-year-old myself, and I have to exercise that discipline within myself, and still utilize those same skills, whether we're married, whatever it may be. That's the transformation. We learn something as individuals, and it applies to all that we do. And I'm just taking it all in. It's always an honor moment for me to sit amongst my father in any space. He is my hero. He's my role model. We're going to get deeper into some things, but I would just say, without that backbone there, the foundation, we talked on previous shows about the foundation. Like, what was it that caused me to change? It was the love of my parents. It was the love of my father. It was having that someone there in my life, reminding me that I was greater than my worst mistake.
I'd like to chime in before you say what you have to say, Dr. Ashley. Mm-hmm. Saabir Lockett, I have a daughter, but if I had a son, I'd send him to Saabir Lockett and Willie Lockett School of How to Be a Man, because you guys are demonstrating, and I'm going to say this and shut my mouth, but that's why we have the #1 show, because I keep it up 100. You guys, white America does not want to see this.
Yeah.
When they see
black male love.
When they see this interaction on this stage here, they get scared. Not scared, they get scared. Dr. Ashley.
No, absolutely. So let's tap into this Lockett legacy. Mr. Lockett, as you talked about what inspired you to start UEG, you talked about this transformation, that word of a shift of purpose. And can you take us back to kind of that painful moment and what that process was like for you, knowing that your then 19-year-old son was going to be incarcerated at that time, expected for life. Tell us
Yeah,
about
so
that.
this is a very emotional I'm still affected.
I
I'm
understand.
still affected. But when I first heard it, I felt like I was for the first 10 years, I was like part of the Walking Dead almost. I was just really, and I wasn't sharing that with anybody. I wasn't sharing that with anybody. I was just kind of, a lot of men were just, we're gonna push through this thing, and we're gonna keep a stiff upper lip and all that kind of stuff. But I was broken. I was broken in a significant way, right? Because what could I have done differently? I'm the father, all that stuff. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm sorry. Your question was.
No problem. So you channeled that pain, and first of all, Mr. Lockett, let me thank you for modeling the vulnerability that Black men often don't get to show in places where it's not safe. And so this love that we're talking about, that's mutual between you and your son, that Doug and I have the privilege to witness. We also are witnessing two whole people who have a gamut of emotions. And so thank you for just shedding light on the difficulty that is in having a son incarcerated, but then also the places where men, and especially Black men, can feel as though they can't share their pain with other people.
Thank you.
May I call you Willie? We're around the same age.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we're the same age.
Yeah. Willie,
I'm back now.
Yeah, Willie, you and me are probably from around the same era, and I, like you, at times I feared of showing my emotions and not expressing. If I felt a tear in my eye, letting it go, and it's okay, because I used to think, and I was raised, men don't cry, and especially Black men.
Right.
So Dr. Ashley is still training and working with me.
Well, I tell you, when Saabir had asked me, say, is it okay if we talk about this? I was kind of, it's like, oh man, what's going to happen here, right? Because it's a very deep, it's very deeply felt, right? But anything that's going to shed light on father-son relationships, or anything that's going to help somebody else, kind of, if they see something here that's going to help them, I'm on board. Okay.
Dr. Ashley, can you give our sponsors a quick break? Donnie Glover, the man who sent us to the Olympics.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Donnie Glover of BlackUSA.News. We want to acknowledge our first sponsor, Magnolia Engineering and Construction. Ms. Tammy Willis is President Chief Executive Officer of Magnolia Engineering and Construction, and one of the few African-American female-owned and operated engineering and construction firms in the country, and it's located in Oakland, California. Visit Magnolia Engineering and Construction's website, magnoliaengineeringandconstruction.com, and because if our daughters can see her, they too can be her. And again, another invitation to join our advertisement family or to be a guest on the show. Please send us an email addressed to bbrt2021@hotmail.com. So, Doug, let's continue this conversation with these wonderful Lockett men.
Yeah, I just want to, did I answer your question?
No, we're coming back to it. We're coming back. I love it. I so appreciate that, Mr. Lockett. I was just giving you space because I'm a therapist and professor by trade. So don't worry, I was giving you space, but I was going to, like the young one say, I was going to spin the block for you.
Okay, all right, it's all good. It's all good.
But Mr. Lockett,
yeah, let me just add another piece too, though. But I think what's really important for the audience to understand here too, because again, from talking to me, y'all know how I am. You know, I'm blunt. I'm to the point. I deal with the real hard emotions around all of this. Um, you're talking about something almost 30 years old right now, and all this emotion is still there.
Right.
You know, we're talking about residual effects of impacts. You know, not only families that's currently maybe going through a loved one incarcerated, you know, but also what happens after a person is let loose. It ain't just the impact of that I had to fight for a job because I had a felony. You know, it's also these emotional impacts that we constantly have to constantly live through every time we deal with this situation. You know, it comes back full circle. So it's just the heavy, what is the real burden that we deal with when we're talking about incarceration. So I just wanted to highlight that piece for to get some perspective here. Like, you know, this crime was almost 30 years ago.
But you know, I can say that that Saabir's letters were really important to me. They were, I mean, because you have to sit down and actually write a letter. You got to sit down, you know. It's like you have to pick up the phone. We did that too. But it's the letters that I saw development in his writing, his articulation, you know, his insight to his own his own condition. So I saw that unfolding, you know, over the course of, you know, his time there, right? I was very impressed, and he came, you know, he hit the ground running and hasn't been back.
Audience, if you are just chiming in, let's welcome back to the show Saabir Lockett, director of the Faith Alliance for a Moral Economy. And we also have on our show today Mr. Willie Lockett Sr., the father of Saabir Lockett. Now, before we get into the next question, America, and specifically Black America, Mr. Willie Lockett Sr. is the epitome of a strong Black man. As they say in the Marine, not gonna leave one man behind. Talking about how he kept his son, along with other family members, motivated. And just listening to you, sir, I see why this brother got out of prison. He had to get back home.
Thank you.
I am truly impressed with this dialogue here. Saabir, how important was it to have parental support while you were incarcerated at the age of 19? What avenues were available to you to maintain a connection to family from inside the Pelican Bay prison system? And thank you, sir.
Oh man, that's really a tough question. Well, not necessarily the first part of it. I think that it was really important to have family support. And it was important to have my father's support because growing up in LA, like you say, we started off in my bio, I was an LA gang member. And there's a certain mentality that comes with that. There's a certain outlook you have. This is, a mentality that you carry. And what you view as manhood gets altered. So somewhere in my development as a youth, my outlook of what a man was altered. So we're also talking about a healing and a reconnection, me getting back to a natural state, where I actually view, my father the way I viewed my father when I was a baby. You know what I'm saying? And with society didn't have that pull on me. So that's why it's really important. So this is a piece here because my idea of manhood as a gang member was who had the fastest car, who had the prettiest woman, who was making the most money, who had the biggest gun. That was my idea of manhood. So when I was incarcerated, that is even a more hyper toxic environment than growing up in the hood. I mean, this is just hyper masculinity and toxicity. So who is the toughest? Who is the biggest? And I was pretty big. I was pretty swolled up. I'll show you some pictures one of these days. But that was the thing about what I viewed as manhood. So the continuing efforts of my dad to be in my life, even when I wouldn't listen. I mean, I can tell you right before even going to prison, there were so many moments. Pop seen it in me, and he'd be like, "Hey, man, let's talk. Put me to the side. Let's talk, man. What's wrong? Everything okay?" And I'm on some, "Hey, I got this. Everything is good." But when I got incarcerated, that father's love, constantly, "I'm here for you. I'm gonna be here for you. I'm gonna impact your life." You know what I'm saying? You my child, and no matter what, I'm gonna be here. Caused me to as I began to develop, my mentality started to change. I started to re-identify what true manhood was, and I saw that in my dad. And I gained the courage to also, look at my environment and say, "Ain't no man in here. I'm not a man." With my actions, my behavior, I'm calling home, asking my mom and daddy for money for packages, asking my parents as a grown person to take care of me. I'm not being a man. My father working every day, taking care of families and still trying to take care of a grown ass son incarcerated with a life sentence. So that's why it was so important, because it kept me connected to what manhood was, and it kept me connected to what family love was, and that I had something to get back to. And then as far as means of communications, I had so many different types of communications at different times. And a lot of people don't know I'm an artist as well. I'm a sight artist. I can draw whatever I see, So there were moments where I did a lot of time. So like my dad said, I caught more cases while I was inside, when I was in my foolishness, right? But so I didn't always have access to a phone. I didn't always have access to a pen and paper, because I was in situations where I didn't have nothing but my underwear, and I was locked up in a cage for not months, but years at a time. And so I probably got a chance to write a letter every 6 months, something like that. So again, having that sense of, you feel like you're a caged animal. But what I would say is that I remember, a time where, like, my dad would still visit. I'm chained up. People don't understand this. Like, it's different levels of where you're at and what you're doing. And I just happen to be one of the worst of the worst at this time. So when I got visits shackled. I couldn't move. I was chained to a table, for the greater part of my incarceration, until the redevelopment started to happen. But my dad would visit. I couldn't call, I couldn't write a letter, and out of nowhere, Pops would show up. Even when I was as far as Pelican Bay, 5 minutes away from the Oregon border, he would be there. And it gave me hope, and it gave me purpose, and we would have conversations. I learned, people don't understand, I learned Toastmasters when I was inside of prison. My dad was a Toastmaster. Part of our routine in visits was elocution. And I would learn how to correctly speak and understand how my mind was developing and how I was writing and how I was, I started to read a lot of books and stuff, and I needed to get this out. And Dad was there helping me do that. I'm in Corcoran shoe, Pelican Bay shoe, shackled to a table, and we're talking about elocution and Toastmasters. That's how important that was. So it was easy for me to hit the ground running. I was hitting the ground running before I came home. And that was part of it, so I hope I answered that question.
Audience, this is a real live moment in Black America. We have two great men here, and thank you both for coming on the show today. Mr. Lockett Sr.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Mr. Lockett Sr. Willie.
Yeah.
My new brother and friend now.
That's right.
Saabir mentioned that he was an only child when he went into prison, but you eventually remarried and grew your family to include siblings born while Saabir was in prison. Saabir mentioned something you said about being incomplete. But once he was home, you were complete. Can you share with our audience what you meant by this, and how was it having more children but explaining to them they had an older brother, which they were not seeing on a day-to-day basis as they were able to do with each other? Thank you, sir.
Well, that was easy. I mean, they always knew they had another brother. They always knew they had a brother, right? You know, I would show them pictures, talk about him, things like that. And as they got older, Saabir would, you know, write letters to them, you know, words of encouragement, drawing pictures, sending pictures. Hey, you good in school? I'm thinking about you, all that kind of stuff. So when he was released, the foundation for a good relationship was there. So when he walked through the door, they just ran and jumped on him and hugged him, especially my little girl, Erin, right? She just like, you know, just kind of flew to it, right? And so that was never a problem for me. Yeah, he made a mistake. That's my son. You know, people make mistakes in life. I think he had a line that I really like about you're not your worst mistake or something to that effect, right? And so, yeah, that was never an issue with me.
Dr. Ashley, please.
I will, but first, Saabir, I see it. When you talked about, when your father mentioned your siblings running and embracing you.
Yeah, and then again, that's another one of the things we're talking about, the importance of family in a person's life when they're incarcerated. You know, I think I probably have a picture of every sibling I have from the minute they were born, every year of their life. I drew pictures for them every birthday. I wrote personal cards. Yeah, you know, we did, you know, and then I think one of the, and that was just how it was. And it also was the thing that kept encouraging me too. Because I don't want it to be misunderstood that because you have support or you change your life, somehow incarceration becomes lighter. That don't happen. It may get a little harder for you because in order to survive and still try to get home, you have to navigate those waters, you know, of violence that's still happening every time you walk out of cell. But, you know, I love communicating with my siblings because that was another factor that kept me pushing forward. And there was nothing in me that was gonna stop. I remember actually there was a time when even, you know, this is really just like a conversation right now. And like you said, like a reconnection, a space of healing, because there was so many different times in my life where, you know, it just could have been all bad. And even when I was fighting my case, you know, didn't really understand what I understood. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like my parents didn't really get it. You know what I'm saying? They was just like, man, you know, keep on working, keep on pushing. But it was the love of family, the love of my siblings, being able to communicate with them. And at this time, you know, I began to get more privileges. You know, I had more access at calling, and because I wasn't in a hole, you know, I wasn't in a shoe. You know, I stopped doing the behavior that kept me detached or separated from my family. I wanted to do behavior that, you know, it wasn't even necessarily behavior. I think it was actions, but I decided to be in control of my actions, and then, you know, in control of the ripple effects. And that even to this day, I'll tell the story that, you know, after being incarcerated for so long and being impacted in the ways I've been impacted, I understand the power of a ripple effect. So I don't do no wrong to nobody. Period. I don't want it coming back to me. You drop a pebble in the water, it's going to create a wave. That wave is going to hit something somewhere at some time. And I never want nothing coming back to me, you know? So yeah, so just being able to call them, you know, and connect. And it was a pure joy when I came home, you know, and they had did videos, you know, and, you know, Dad was so attentive that he even had them like, what would it be like when you see Saabir, you know, because I was released off my life sentence. way before I came home. You know, like I said, I was doing dirt up in there, so I had more time I had to do. I beat that case, and I had to finish out other cases, you know. And so he had already had started like a video thing of, you know, what is it gonna be like when you see your big brother, you know. And then I got home, and then I'm looking at them speak about me months in advance, you know, and just their joy. And it all just came full circle.
Before you ask your question, Dr. Lockett, audience, I want you to note on your calendar today, this is what Black family power looks like. Dr. Ashley, please.
Absolutely. Saabir, before I come to you, Mr. Lockett, I'm coming back around to you.
Okay.
So you gave a very powerful testimony about what the first 10 years were like for you emotionally and how you went inward to cope. And it sounds like Saabir had a very similar, what we call parallel process inside of going inside and coping as well. And then you talked about there being a shift of your perspective of what you wanted your legacy to be and what you were doing, a shift in career. Correct. It sounds like a shift in purpose. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process for you?
Yeah, well, yeah, the bottom line is that, you know, we're all here trying to do the best we can on Earth, you know what I mean? But, you know, so often we get distracted by little trinkets. We get distracted by trinkets, right? And once again, I assess my life, right? And I found a thread where I had always been doing volunteer work, but I was never really getting paid for it. I was just doing volunteer work. I'd go there and help someone, things like that. But also IT organizations, we go to a school, that kind of thing, right? And working at the nonprofit, some of the best fun I had in there was just telling stories. Telling stories about Saabir, telling stories about my life growing up, I'm connecting with these people, letting them know, hey, you and I are the same. You know, you and I are the same. And I would tell a story about Saabir. Saabir, I'm not sure if you told the story before, but I'm going to tell it, okay? So, and I would tell them a story about.
That's what it is to have a parent, though.
Right, I was telling the story about this young man that went to prison. Okay, and I would talk about how he was. He spoke with physicality and pain. Okay, matter of fact, he was serious when he said, you know, he. Let me just say this. My understanding is people were trying to get out of the cell that he was in. Okay, it was something like that on occasion. I mean, he was very, very. He was upset, and he was challenging everything, and he was challenging authority. Okay, then there's another inmate that was in prison, and he was a healer, right? He was a spiritual. He provided spiritual guidance. He provided comfort. He provided comfort to those looking at decades in prison, right? But this was the same person. These two people are the same person, right? Before transformation and after transformation. Before and after transformation, right? And that came from within. That came from within, and basically found out his somewhat purpose. He knew who he was. He challenged the authorities, and those walls just fell down, just melted away, and he walked right out. You know, so I use stories like that, talking to former students, people that may be intrigued, people facing challenges, and I explained that your attitude is very much like the moon pulled on the tides. You know, the moon's pull on the tides creates these, you know, different levels of tides and things, right? Your attitude is very much like that. It's unseen, Your attitude is sometimes unseen, but it's guiding how you walk through life, right? And so I'm very proud of the fact that he was able to connect with himself like that and kind of walk in a direction that's straight and and fun and positive for him.
Mm-hmm. The power of a transformed mind. Now, our longstanding listeners may know this part of the story, Saabir, but if they don't, we want to give them an opportunity to hear it. So, to you, I want to ask you, what was a pivotal moment for you in front of the Board of Corrections, and what immediately followed? So, this is the part of the story that we love to hear.
Well, the pivotal moment for me was, so it comes in multiple ways, right? And I can tell this story in a few different type of ways, but I think one of the things that was critical, and I want to also underscore the importance of believing in yourself. You have to believe in yourself to succeed. You can't depend on no one else. When they talk about addictions, you have behavior addictions, not just drug and alcohol, right? So excuse me for segueing a little, you know what I mean, like pivoting a little bit, but I always want to make sure folks is getting that real, because you got to believe in yourself to succeed, and we got a lot of people that's suffering out here. We got a lot of families that suffer that need help. But when that glory day come, you will be, you'll be standing proud. You'll stand proud prior to it happening. So prior to my success, I remember I shared with Mr. Blockster. I was successful years before I came home, because my prison wall stopped becoming my cell. There was my prison wall was never really the cell. It was my mind that was the cell. So once I overcame my own mind, and knew that I could succeed and thrive and be successful in any environment, the prison didn't matter anymore, because I was going to succeed whether I ever came home or not. Because that's just what the power of change is. It wasn't the change of my physical condition; it was the change of my mental and spiritual condition. And from there, like I say, once you see through the eyes of God, what can stand before you? You're going to blind anything that's negativity. And you're just going to light the pathway for yourself and all those that's, with you. But like, so the board, when I finally received my letter from the Board of Prison Terms, there was a moment of escalation. I was just so excited, right? But what really excited me about the Board of Prison Terms was the fact that I didn't have to go to them. To go, because part of me winning my conviction was that I challenged the Board of Prison Terms denial of me having the right to have parole. They denied me 7 times. So I challenged them under due process law that said, you don't have the authority no longer to deny me, because what you're denying me for doesn't have precedence today. And then, so this is how, that's why when the Supreme Court gave the ruling, they ruled on all grounds. So I didn't ever have to go to them. I could have just, but it was really funny when I did, though, because they were like, you didn't have to talk to us, but you did. We just want to know, talk to you because you whooped their ass. And for me, it's just a matter of, as a man thinketh, you shall be. You all know the book, As a Man Thinketh. As you think, you shall be. As you shall think, you shall become. And it was just happy. And then, but after actually getting that letter, though, prior to the Board of Prison Terms, I had a visit from my dad. And it was a joyous moment, and I was so happy that it was part of the advertisement for this show. Because that is probably one of the happiest moments that we had never had in our life. I believe we just sat down and was like, we did it. It wasn't I did it. It was we did it. It takes a village. It takes a community. And we've been putting forth this energy, for a long time. I mean, it's like that. What's the movie? And they doing their chest, the Africans. You know, I still feel that energy right now. That was the energy. It was like we got a momentum going here. And when it finally happened, man, you know, I got a chance to hug my dad, see my dad, and we talk and like it's over. I'm coming home. Very beautiful thing, you know. Words cannot even explain what that was. And then I actually had the opportunity too to do a family visit. I had the opportunity to conjugal visits.
I was going to bring that up.
So out of all this time, and you know, it's crazy, you know, people do their thing, but I didn't choose a conjugal visit. I chose to have a family visit with my dad. And for the first time in 20, I think it was, no, at this time it had to be 19 years in, I was able to spend time with my father for 3 days. For the first time in 19 years.
Yeah,
we played chess.
Played chess.
We played chess out of a makeshift
laugh
of crackers or something. You know,
audience, I'd like to just say, for those of you who have our family, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, mothers, fathers, etc., who are incarcerated, this story should shine and give a whole new light on what it means by we are a village. Never give up. There are many.
Hold on, Deb. 1 second. Hold on. Let me just jump in. Wait, I just want to make sure I heard this. You played chess with crackers?
Yeah, it
was
was like a
chessboard.
We made it out of a cracker box.
See, this is black brilliance. This is black brilliance, and we just couldn't go over that. We just have to talk about the innovation to be able. Wow.
Yeah, because they wasn't gonna provide us everything we needed. So
right.
Food, you know, and then like I say, people hear about family visits and stuff, but when you have life, you cannot get a conjugal or family visit. You know, yeah, and I'm just, you know, just so happy that I was evolved to the point that I wasn't thinking about a conjugal visit. I was thinking about spending time with my father, you know, who'd been there in the trenches with me. You know, we've been to war. You know, it's like, if you ever hear me tell a story about my tattoos, I actually got that from my dad because I was shackled. And this was part of the time I was beginning to transition a little bit out of the negative thinking to a pro-social state of mind. And I was like, man, I'm thinking about removing my tattoos. And I'm in the SHU, and the folks know what the SHU is. You're locked up 24/7. Like, you don't see nobody. I think I was like in about 3 years in the SHU term at this time. And I was like, I'm thinking about removing my tats. And my dad was like, he showed me what real blackness is and what it means to be African. Because he was like, well, your tattoos represent the tribe you're from in a concrete jungle you have to survive in America. Is no difference than the tribal mark that Africans wore that represent their tribes in Africa. And it completely changed my mind. And I had already started reading like Cornel West and Malcolm X, you know what I'm saying? And I started studying Islam. And so I was already on this different, like, what is it to identify yourself? But that gave me the power just to always be me. So I don't care if I'm in a boardroom directly negotiating with whoever the developer may be, the A's, multi-million-dollar corporations. I got my tattoos, I got my beanie, I got my hat on backwards, and I'm gonna be me because you're gonna respect it. And that was also the same fire I had to continue to be me while I was inside as well. You know, so it was further encouragement because it takes a lot of strength to come up out of them gangs inside of there, and you still in them gangs on them yards. You know what I'm saying? You know, yeah, so it just empowered me to really embrace my true nature and to know that my strength wasn't to be hindered, manipulated, or stagnant, but my strength was to be embraced and then used in a positive way. You know, because even gangs don't mean a bad word. Gang is just an expert to court. It's a common belief of a group. Any group of 3 people is a gang, but how we apply ourselves is the, you know, dominating factor of whether you're going to be a positive person, a negative person, or, you know, a negative influencer or a positive influencer. We all have power, and we just, once we realize it, we can act on it accordingly for ourselves and others.
Gentlemen, there are many impacts incarceration had on your family. Can you both share what some of the not so obvious might be, and what are the long-term effects that you may still linger even after you are released from Pelican Bay? And we're working with about 10 minutes now, but we want to make sure our audience understands that together, anything can happen. Don't
Can I
leave
start?
any man and woman behind. Thank you.
I like to start. Okay. You saw how emotional I was. Okay. So yeah, that's still with me. So there are lingering effects, right? Now it varies from person to person, of course. And I understand that it can be linked to mood disorders such as depression, bipolar disorder, mental health issues, due to the fact that someone's been removed from society, right? Eliminating their meaning and purpose in life to a large extent a lot of times, right? So yeah, there are significant effects and sometimes lifetime effects. Luckily, Saabir, you don't see any of that stuff. I'm glad to see that he's able to navigate in a happy and healthy manner.
Yeah, and for me, I would say the same thing. I'm always impacted on how the people I care about and love was impacted when I first got incarcerated. That's a emotion that builds up in me. It's going to be there. I don't think it's ever going to go away because it's very important to me to live that. It fuels my drive to keep moving forward. I don't never want to forget about the pain I caused. I don't want to forget about that because then I forget about myself. I forget about who I can fall back into. I was talking about earlier about addictions. We talked about on the previous shows, somatics and, you know what I mean? And, how the mind can say something or experience something and then the body have a physical reaction. And, we're all subject to these things. So, I embrace that because that is also a fire that keeps me moving forward. So it's just living with that, and I just think I'm always going to have to. And it's there. So yeah. And I would also say it's funny to me sometimes because a lot of people don't even understand like my arrested development. Sometimes people see me doing all that I'm doing and they don't understand. It may be this one little area that I don't know a damn thing about. And I might be like a 10-year-old kid about that thing. You know what I'm saying? So navigating that space too. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's all good. I take the bitter and the sweet and keep it moving.
Dr. Ashley, can you ask the last and really to me the most important question to our special guest? And let me be perfectly clear here, audience. These two gentlemen story is not resonating here in Oakland and Alameda and in California, but all across the United States. And we thank you, gentlemen, for your courage to come on and inspire other families. Dr. Ashley, please.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to be in this space, to see the love shared and expressed. So when I started asking, at the start of the show, I asked your father, Saabir, what he was most proud of. And, we believe to give people their flowers now. And so I hear your commitment in action in what you're doing in the community. I hear you not taking it for granted and even in your legacy with your child. But can you please share, and we got tissue and we just gonna let it go, whatever comes. But can you express to your father and to share with us what you're most proud of him for?
Oh man, y'all put me on blast.
We did. We got you.
I don't, man. It's not a question of not having the words. It's just where do I start? You know, I've seen my dad. I think one of the most proudest things I am of my father is the fact that I've seen my dad grow. I've seen my dad have millions. I've seen my dad have nothing. I've seen my dad run businesses. I've seen my dad volunteer. Through anything that he's ever been through, he's always had a positive outlook. He's always had an optimistic view. And you very seldom see him upset. And I tell you, my cousins, everybody will tell you, like, oh, Uncle Bill, he's always even killed. And he always have a sense of love and care, you know, which is, you know, I just admire that more than anything else, because he just has a big heart, you know, and he's gonna be there for you through thick and thin. Like you say, leave no soldier behind. That's my father, you know, leaves no soldier behind, you know, he's there, you know, and it can be professional. It could be gangster. He showed me exactly what it means to navigate corporate America. I remember being 13 years old. My dad telling me, you got to show him what nigga you want to show out. First, you start off and you put that one behind. Excuse my language. You have to sometimes start off with just a little bit of yourself. Then after you get the dough, then you can let it all out. You know what I'm saying? Those lessons at like 13 years old.
Don't scare nobody. Some people can't have it.
You know what I'm talking about? Because we got a code switch in this world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In this racist society. You know, the society is not designed for us. You know, so it's just so many different life lessons, you know, through just growing up. And I'm just extremely proud of his willingness to just constantly be a black man, you know, unapologetically black. You know, that's where I get it from. You see my siblings, they got it too. They highly educated. One is at NYU, the other one already graduated, living somewhere else, doing her thing in a professional career. But one thing they are is black. The only thing they are is black. Me, you said, you know, whether I'm, again, no matter what, I got a suit on or I got a hoodie, I'm the same person. And that's what my dad is. He's a sum total of all his experiences, you know, straight up out of Watts, California. That's where we from, you know, in the projects, and, you know, living as black people, you know, and making it happen and not forgetting about where we are, who we are, you know, who our enemy is, who's, you know, what we dealing with in society. You know, we have to deal with that stuff head on. And that's why I'm so proud of my father. You know, he has these things and installed them in his children.
Audience, you heard it here today on the Black Business Roundtable. Saabir Lockett and Mr. Willie Lockett Sr. It has been my honor, and I'm sure Dr. Ashley feels the same way. You have, I mean, I know you guys saw me doing this every so often.
Oh, I'm fighting it back. I'm just kind of like,
yeah,
holding my eyes so small you can't see this now.
You guys have truly shown courage, bravery, and been a beacon of light to our audience in America and beyond. We look forward to having. Yes, sir.
Thank you for you. I knew you were running short on time. I want to thank you for this opportunity to talk about my background, my relationship with my son, and congratulations once again on the success of this program, because I do watch. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's stories like this that makes it successful. And let me be clear, audience. White America does not want to see this. Matter of fact, I'm looking out the window now, seeing that they got a scope on me. But they do not want to see stories like this that will impact positively the lives of many Americans who have been affected by the judicial system in the United States of America. Saabir Lockett, love you, brother. Yeah. Mr. Willie,
we run a show. I know. I still want to say something else.
You and me
forever.
Yeah, because I just want people to know, like, love your family.
Right.
I just want to get to the core of this. Is like, love your family. Love your family no matter what they do. You know, we in a society and in a system designed for our destruction. Don't let the impact of society the oppressions, the policies created for years of our destruction be the reason you hate your loved ones, because they are only acting out of conditions that were designed for their failure. You see what I'm saying? We're dealing with state violence. Don't pay attention to the, they want to get mad at the one with the gun. Well, get mad at the one producing the gun that made it possible for the little homie to pick it up in the first place. That's who we need to be fighting. We need to change policy, bring resources back to our community, and love our family, period. No matter they're incarcerated or not. Love them while we're here. Love them while we got them.
And on that, audience, you have heard it live on the Black Business Roundtable. Mr. Willie Lockett, Mr. Saabir Lockett, it's been a pleasure. And we look forward to having you back on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Love y'all.
Thank you for our weekly special guest and my co-host, Ride or Die, Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology. Janani Ramachandran, Esquire, our grassroots fighter of human rights and candidate running for Oakland City Council District 4. See more of Janani via her website, Janani4, and that's FOR, Oakland.com, or on Instagram at Janani4, and that's the numeral 4, Oakland.com, or on Instagram at Janani4, and that's the numeral 4, Oakland. And Saabir Lockett, director of the Faith Alliance for a moral economy. Faith! I love doing that, Willie. And Mr. Willie Lockett Sr., the father of Saabir Lockett. And let me be clear, audience. Use this man as an example of never give up, keep hope alive, and believe not only in yourself, but in your family. Thank you, Mr. Lockett. Thank you, Willie. Thank you, audience, for your thoughts, prayers, messages, and donations to Carlton. New hashtag, Stand with Carlton of Raleigh, NC 2020. And NC stands for North Carolina. A special shout out to Donnie Glover of BlackUSA.News and the one who turned us into Olympians. And our current sponsor, Magnolia Engineering and Construction. Visit her website at magnoliaengineeringandconstruction.com. Join our Black Business Roundtable advertising family, or to be a possible guest on the show. Reach us via our email, bbrt2021@hotmail.com. Include your company name, address, website, company phone number, and social media page info to our email address at bbrt2021@hotmail.com. We have a network of shows hosted by Donnie Glover, such as Black USA News Morning Show, Donnie Glover Show, Shared Space, Frontline News, Troy Rawlings Show, The Beverly Smith Show, and stay tuned as new shows are added. We continue to ask for your social media support and share these hashtags. Hashtag Stop School Bullying, Crane County TX 2022. TX is for Texas. Driving While Black, Michael Thrash. Taylor County TX. Attach our podcast link from October 14th. List once again in the today's podcast description for Michael Thrash's story. Take action on your social media. Click the hashtag and tag us too. Audience, thank you for joining us today and tuning in. And remember, together, as these two men are, together, we can listen, we can learn, and we can share, because I know you care. This is Doug Blackshear and my ride or die, Dr. Ashley Coleman of the Black Business Roundtable. God bless. Thank you for joining in on this outstanding show tonight. We look forward to seeing you next week. Good night. Thank you again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Knocked it out of the park, both of you.
Thank you. Let's see.